there's now a call that continues to grow. It's been growing for years now in order to be able to address some of the issues of decay, address some of the issues of illegal occupation, as well as other challenges when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to some of the provision of basic services across the country. And someone who's delved deeper into the conversation of, some historical inner cities across the country and the significance thereof, and also the turnaround plans that need to be put in place in order to deal with this is Dr. Hendrik Conradie, who's the public policy specialist who's joining us live now. Dr. Conradie, thank you so much for your time. Before we even get into, some of our conversation tonight, we just heard from a community that is saying that for them, the flats that were built by the municipality, now the municipality is conducting what it calls a verification process, going door to door to ensure that they're trying to verify some of the occupants there, to ensure that these are the people that are supposed to be occupying these particular flats and do so legally and also pay for some of the services. This is not only in the Free State. There's also, of course, a number of such developments across the country that are also, falling prey to some illegal occupation. Let's talk about what leads to what we are seeing unfold right now.
Okay, no, thank you. Thanks very much. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. Look, in terms of illegal occupations, there can be various factors, of course, as causes of that. And I, honestly speaking, looked more into inner city decay in the inner cities and at problem buildings and hijacked buildings and that sort of thing. So I didn't listen into the whole conversation now about that particular matter, but I can say a few things about the inner city turnaround.
Before you move on, Dr. Conradie, part of the problem that they're also talking about here is something you've written about, which is around service delivery and lack thereof, that also causes the issue of decay. We are now hearing of some of the residents who are connecting at a car wash, for example, in order to be able to get some water. There's now illegal occupation. When you look at even, the ground there and that particular place, there does seem to be some decay somewhat. And the municipality now talking about the fact that they want to bring around a turnaround strategy. Let's perhaps maybe talk about some of the issues that then could lead to some decays that we are seeing in some of these projects that would be put in place in some of the big cities to try and turn the situation around or even to house people.
Look, one of the big... I don't want to say secrets, but very important to bear in mind is that if a municipality wants to do something about something, or this type of problem, is that it's important to have a project manager, a single line of responsibility mandated by a city manager or a municipal manager to take a specific project and to attend to the project. Because with municipalities, often there's so many departments that's involved, and they wait for each other, and there's sometimes legal issues, sometimes health issues. So that makes it quite difficult then to get progress because they wait for each other, and sometimes there's a bit of politics and that sort of thing. So not to speak too much now about there's a whole background, of course, of the decay and the problems that we have.
Yeah.
And they relate to dysfunctional municipalities in a big way and a number of other factors. But to turn it around, one of the things that one must do is that at the municipality you need to have a designated project manager reporting to for instance, the city manager directly that can then bring together and coordinate the coordinated response.
Yeah,
to address the problem. So that is just the one thing that one must bear in mind.
Yeah,
and then there's a few other matters.
And hopefully we get to them. But let's talk about the decay, Dr. Conradie, and how it manifests itself in different ways. I mean, a lack of effective waste management, for example, increased criminality, ineffective service delivery, insufficient law enforcement. Which would you say, in your view, is more prevalent, or are they all more prevalent in some of the studies you've conducted?
Well, look, if you look at a place like Kebega, the city area, the CBD area, for instance, there the people, for a few years already, some people sell drugs openly on the street. They're in an area that used to be quite upmarket area with sea views. So I think that is just as a case study. But the first thing that one must look at is to get safety and to get the criminality under control. And to do that, you need to identify a specific precinct. So an area of a part of a suburb or a few street blocks, not too big, and then your police services and your private security forces with your municipality need to work together to get safety back in that area. And you need feet on the ground, you need people patrolling there, you need the whole thing with cameras, security cameras and so on. So in other words, you want a 24/7 safe area, especially in inner city areas where there's potential for economic development, tourism development.
Yeah.
So you want to rescue those pockets and those precincts. Of course, that doesn't mean you must just leave the rest where there's decay. You need to attend to it, but one would want to prioritize. So a safe and clean precinct is the starting point.
So we've seen,
and then yes.
Pardon me, we've seen in some of the cities, in councils, we've seen some instability there when it comes to leadership. Does this at all have an impact, in your view, when it comes to the implementation of some of the inner city turnaround programs?
Yes, no, absolutely. It's got a very big impact where you have a well-functioning municipality. There's a much bigger chance to get these things under control. And such municipalities would even take the lead. And then they would bring stakeholders on board. And there are certain successful models that you can look at, for instance, in Cape Town, City Improvement District, for instance, and so on. So, but if the municipality is weak, and there's a lot of corruption and a lot of lack of performance, it's a different ball game. Then you have to adjust your model a little bit so that you can then, from the private sector, from taxpayers associations and business chambers, that they can then take the lead and to establish a precinct and try to get the municipality on board. So it can be turned around. But you need dedicated leadership and focus. You need focus.
Yeah. As a final question then, what is at risk if some of these dedicated inner city turnaround programs are not implemented in the years to come? Well, it is things are falling apart in these areas, and you get a situation, a certain type of a dystopia where you have chaos and criminality and more joblessness, more and more crime and filth and so on. So it's very imperative that something must be done about it. So you can't really leave it like this. And the good thing, the positive thing is that many of our towns across the country have inner city areas or town square areas where people don't want to stop anymore. They just want to drive through because it's dangerous and it's dirty and so on. So if you apply the scientific and the correct models to many of our towns across the country, you can stimulate economic development, tourism development, job creation. So it is actually an initiative that should even perhaps be driven from the office of the president, and where you get an instruction from high up, from the president of the country, and directives that something must be done about these matters, and there must be time frames. Yeah. So project management is a very important aspect. So there must be time frames attached to these matters, and it can be done by way of special projects. So as I said in the beginning, where you mandate a special project manager to
coordinate things and to get some successes. But it can have a huge positive impact for our communities, especially in relation to unemployment, etc., as I just mentioned.
Yeah, Dr. Conradie, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. That was Dr. Hendrik Conradie, the public policy specialist.